Good afternoon, everyone. Let me welcome you to PIDE seminar on the invisible human cost of climate change. So we are honored to have with us today Haroon Riaz. So I'm really thankful to him for taking time to come and to share his research that he has been doing since Indus Delta, not only since Indus Delta, but also in other parts of Pakistan. So Haroon Riaz is a documentary filmmaker, blogger, communications consultant, and advertising creative director based in Islamabad. Haroon has directed several short documentaries and is the director and screenwriter of feature documentary Natari, The Burden of Climate Change. He's also a screenwriter and associate producer of award-winning feature documentary Indus Blues. Haroon has contributed to multiple climate and environment-related films and communication projects, and passionately advocates for preservation of the Indus Delta. So, as I told you, that Haroon has done extensive research on climate change in Indus Delta and Sindh. So apart from what he has done in Indus Delta, he will also share a few clips or excerpts from his film that he has made in Indus Delta. The name of that documentary is Natari. So we will hear more from Haroon Riaz, how he connects climate change with his documentary. So as we know that there's like a discourse regarding the Indus Delta. So because of the reduced freshwater inflow in the delta, that causes problem for the fishing community. So his basically talk will also, cover these issues. So before I invite Haroon Riaz to share his research with us, so this was a excerpt from Natari movie. You see, this was in the Sindhi language, and Haroon focused on Sindhi speaking fishing community in Sindh Sajawal district. So you can see how climate change or climate induced migration has took place and caused a lot of problems. Even you see, if you look at this documentary, you see the stories. So as an anthropologist, you can analyze these stories, the stories of pain, suffering, and a lot of other issues. I think I don't need to talk more. So now let's hand over mic to our speaker to speak more and share what basically stories he brings from his field. So let's hear Haroon Riaz. So floor is yours, Haroon.
Thank you, Dr. Zulfiqar, and I hope you all can hear me well. And I'm very grateful to the Pakistan Institute of Development Economics for having me here and for giving platform to filmmakers to talk about, pressing issues like climate change, but also bringing forth human stories, which is, to my mind, a part that's often missed. And that's where a lot of filmmakers and a lot of documentary filmmakers are doing great work across Pakistan are, they're doing a lot of, making a lot of great films, making a lot of contribution to this area. But unfortunately, when policy making is happening, when policies are being formulated, at the higher echelons of power, they probably are not really mindful of the kind of situation, the kind of life conditions that people at the grassroots are going through, and particularly in Sindh, in the Indus Delta. Obviously, climate change doesn't impact necessarily only one of the regions of the country. Pakistan is probably the fourth most vulnerable country. And from Gilgit-Baltistan to the Sindh Delta, we're basically seeing chaos unfold, the kind of climatic conditions that we've never seen before. And in the middle of that, there's so many human tragedies, so many families, so many individuals losing their lives, their livelihood, and all of that sort of slips through the headlines in the news. Just figures coming, flash flood, sweeping away maybe 10 houses. The Indus sees flooding pretty much every other year. And, hundreds of families get displaced, lose their homes, lose their livelihood, often lose everything that they have without anybody listening to them. The film that I made with my producer, Jawad Sharif, by the way, a lot of credit to him, because brave producers like him, for a change, actually invest their resources, their effort, their attention to, bringing forth stories that usually other people do not choose to. They probably would choose to work on more commercial subject matter. But this is just to tell the story of the people of Kharochan. The film is called Natari. Probably a lot of people on Zoom might not have had the chance to see the clips and the excerpts that we've just shown. So I'll just give you a very brief summary of that. So the film is based on Ayub Seto. So Ayub Seto is a fisherman and an artist and also a political worker based in Kharochan. And he's the only breadwinner of his family with, his son, Ayaz, helps him out. But as of now, I'll expand further on it. Ayaz can't help him either. So Ayub Seto and Ayaz, his son, the story follows them, revolves around them. And from their viewpoint, we get to see, a glimpse of what life is like in Kharochan. It's an island off the coast of Tata and right in the middle of the Indus River. But when we think about Indus River, we often think about a river which has a lot of water in it. But pretty interestingly, the people of Kharochan are literally drinking seawater, seawater mixed with whatever remnant of fresh water is left on that island. And they are basically stuck between rock and a hard place. They have unlivable conditions on Kharochan, but at the same time, they cannot really migrate inward. And they don't want to migrate, but at the same time, they do, because they don't want to leave their homeland. But at the same time, they do not have the resources, they do not have the money to actually, build a new home inland and build their livelihood from scratch. So that's the kind of challenge that people of Delta, the fishing communities in Delta, are facing. And when I refer to the seawater, it's the seawater intrusion, which is basically the main poison that's drowning the communities, the lives of the people of Kharochan, people of Indus Delta in general, because it's not just Kharochan, it's the Tata district, it's the Badin district, which actually are responsible for a lot of agricultural produce that our large cities like Karachi consume. And that's the focus that I want to bring the attention to. Climate change, obviously, is a big factor. It is something that is impacting their lives every single day. But at the same time, it's not just climate change. It's our administrative policies. It's our legacy of the irrigation system, which, sort of selectively dispenses what kind of volume of freshwater supply every district gets. So that's a bit of an area that film touches. So It's on YouTube. It's absolutely free to watch. We're not, earning any income out of it, but it's just for the purpose of like the awareness of the struggle that the people of the Indus Delta are going through. So our film starts with a couple of facts, and I'll just, Dr. Zulfiqar was very kind enough for a very flattering introduction. I'm not exactly a climate scientist. I'm just a filmmaker. So I just use the data that our advising climate scientists and researchers put together, and on the basis of that, we just tell a story of the people who are basically going through this ordeal. So one of the facts is that the Indus Delta has actually shrunk by 92% since 1833. And that fact basically from the, if I'm not quoting it wrong, from the US Pakistan Center for Advanced Studies in Water. So every fact that I'm quoting here comes from a study. And it's sort of an eye-opening bit that ever since probably the irrigation system was built in Pakistan, obviously the brunt of the strain has been borne by the Indus Delta. And what we forget about that is that it's basically a part of the Indus Basin ecosystem, which nurtures every single part of our ecosystem. And once that goes out of balance, we sort of see the kind of imbalance, the kind of climatic imbalance that we're dealing with currently. And there's a lot of cost that we bear for that. Another fact is that by 2050, the entire delta could be under seawater with the rising average temperature in the climate and the rising sea levels that climate scientists are projecting. So it's really an urgent wake-up call for not only our communities, but also for the governments, not only for the Pakistani government, but governments around the world, in terms of like probably the most densely populated regions in the world that could face massive climate migration. And all that climate migration is going to put a lot of strain on our cities. People who move from actually these fishing communities, from these fishing villages, from the islands, they're probably going to move into Hyderabad and Karachi. A lot of them will come to Islamabad and Rawalpindi. So if we think that, the climate migration issue is a distant bit, and we can like talk about here in Islamabad, in conference halls, as a distant issue, as something like which is happening like very far from us, whether it's happening in Gilgit-Baltistan, whether it's happening in Sindh, it's still going to affect our lives because it's going to have that strain on Pakistani civic infrastructure, which probably that our cities are not really built for. And not just in Pakistan, if this happens anywhere around the world, the biggest cities can only bear so much in terms of the kind of mass migration waves coming in. I hope we don't see that day, but obviously the trajectory is not looking very good. Obviously, there's a lot that I've spoken about macro issues, but I'd just like to go back into the film because the focus that I really want to talk about today is bringing forth that invisible human cost that is often lost between the headlines. So when I was, traveling on the road to the Tata Bank, which like takes the boats to Kharochan, we probably were not, me and my team were not ready for what we were really in for. Every shoot starts with a certain script that you probably have in mind. You probably think that, all right, we're going to shoot the film in a certain way. But when you meet those people, when you discover more about them, when you discover about their lives, what they're capable of, what they do every day, how they treat their loved ones, the story starts changing. And when you're making a documentary, every single day, you're basically wrestling with the idea of what sequence to shoot next, because you really need to make the film to make sense to the audience. It's not just something that we just randomly go around and shoot on an island and the sights and sounds over there. But in this film, we made sure that we also sort of get the treatment in a way that Karo-chan, the island itself, the sights and sounds of the island itself, they become a character which complement the lives and the stories of our characters, which are like intertwined with basically with the climate of with the lives of the characters, with the climate of the island, and with the challenges that they're facing in terms of their livelihood. So Ayub Seto, every passing day, is looking to basically just put food on the table for his family. And with all the freshwater fish going out of the way, with seawater intrusion massively, impacting the Indus in the Delta, it's basically ocean channels at this point. It's basically seawater around that island. And it's just in name only that it's an island in the Indus River, in the Indus Delta. So that has massively impacted their fishing capacity and their livelihood. So the entire film is a struggle of Ayub Seto trying to find livelihood for his young son, Ayaz, who basically was graduated. He was graduate. There's no college, there's no school on the island, but the children like move inland whenever they can to, get education. But even with the graduate degree, he's not being able to find any employment. And toward the end of the film, we show Ayub Seto moving to Ibrahim Hedri fishing village, which is like just on the coast of Karachi city, near the Kurangi Creek, where actually a lot of families from Karo-chan have actually migrated. Because as a matter of fact, as we speak, there are very few families left in Karo-chan. They've all migrated inland, either to Bagan, which is the closest inland town, or to Gharo, or to either to the Tata city. But most of them have moved to Ibrahim Hedri fishing village, which is in Karachi. So the film starts with the line, "This is my place of birth." Ayub Seto speaks and says that it's his place of birth. And I really don't want to break the film down for you, but if you really want to know and understand what Ayub Seto must be feeling like, what his entire family would be feeling like, it's basically that idea. Because if you were asked to leave your hometown or where you are currently residing, just because, say, floodwaters are coming in, or you don't have any fresh water to drink anymore, because let's face it, they actually do not have any fresh water to drink anymore. They're basically drinking seawater, and that has actually resulted in a lot of distress and a lot of disease. The kind of impact that has had is devastating. As a matter of fact, I'll be very honest with you. On Jawad's website, on Jawad Sharif Films website, there's a page that they've put up, and it's also on my Facebook page that I've pinned. We're actually raising funds for Ayub Seto and Ayaz Seto, because and he's actually suffering from a very dangerous disease, and it's so difficult that I don't even remember the name. It's called spondyloarthropathy, and that disease has actually caused a spinal disabling. It's very disabling and I'd say debilitating disease. He's not able to move around freely anymore, and he's not able to help his family anymore. If you could kindly just put up the slideshow, I'd just like to show you guys the images and who I'm talking about exactly. So Ayub Setu is our main protagonist, and the boy that you're basically seeing at the front, he's Ayaz. Ayaz. So this is Ayaz, and Ayaz right now is suffering from a disease which requires the kind of medication that his family actually can't even afford. So that's like another struggle another moral struggle that we had as filmmakers, because we, again, only had so many resources to sort of manage or even assist them in any way possible. But whenever we find a forum like this, we always like to amplify the voice of Ayub Setu, the voice of Ayaz Gul Setu, so that more and more people can actually get to understand, get to realize the intensity of the pain and the intensity of suffering that they're going through. I'm very glad to be here in the company of economists, in the company of future policymakers, in the company of teachers, in the company of economic researchers, in the company of maybe future advocates, future lobbyists, future politicians, future senators. I don't know. But wherever your destiny takes you, I'm pretty sure that your work in economics is going to have a lot of impact in your own respective areas. We don't know. Maybe on the provincial level, maybe on the national level. Whichever way that you can contribute, I think it's very critical that you in your research keep in mind that, yes, in your macroeconomic figures and your microeconomic figures, they're actually people that are represented in your findings, in your recommendations. And I would really like you to keep that into consideration whenever you're formulating your research papers, whenever you're formulating your articles, your op-eds for the newspapers, for science journals, for economic journals, and for even your university thesis, for that matter. And probably bring that flair of human storytelling into your recommendations, into the case that you're making. I know, you're students of science, and there's only so much room that you get in your conventional scientific method papers. Sure, that takes its own course, but whenever you're trying to engage your audiences, I'd always encourage you to take the route of storytelling. Perhaps there are documentary filmmakers sitting in this particular room, in this hall, and channel that energy to bring the voices of the people who are getting impacted by climate change, and bring those stories to the front. That's what we are trying to do as filmmakers, and trying to find ways between the labyrinth of bureaucracy, between the labyrinth of whatever limited development funds and whatever limited communication funds that are out there, in Pakistan's, development communications industry. But we try to prioritize, the voices of the community, and voices of people like Ayub Setu, people like Ayaz Setu, and bring that forward to the climate stories. So I really encourage you to watch this documentary. I've worked on some other documentaries as well. I've directed The Frozen Giants of Karakoram for the Daud Foundation. That's another chapter, by the way, because in Pakistan there's a lot of talk between like India sort of blocking off Pakistan's water supply in Indus River, which is kind of interesting because about 75 to 80% of Indus River's supply actually comes from within Pakistan's borders. And our river system is very heavily dependent on the glaciers, which are like obviously melting with every passing day as the average global temperature rises. So we're basically in Indus River Basin. We're basically a community that doesn't have like a lot of water in the water table, but we're very dependent on the freshwater supply that comes from the rivers and comes from the glaciers. And obviously, every monsoon season, it comes as floods. Now, those floods, as destructive as they are also sort of a blessing in disguise because they bring that fertile soil that actually helps improve our agriculture. But at the same time, we must not lose sight of the importance of the natural course of the river and the communities that have been flourishing along those plains for hundreds and thousands of years. And while we have like this very elaborate irrigation system, at the same time, there are these problems that, probably sometimes pick and choose of who gets, access to that water supply and who doesn't. And that obviously then becomes, it surfaces itself into the kind of imbalance that we see in the Delta. I hope, Dr. Zulfiqar, I've not taken a lot of time.
Just
Yes.
You're free. Okay. Thank you, Haroon, for bringing the stories of marginalized communities whose voice is always unheard. So I think this is just one location that Haroon has focused. There is a series of villages that were affected by climate change and causing, the migration to various parts of Sindh, particularly the major cities, be it Karachi, Hyderabad, Thatar, other places. So I believe that due to this climate change effects, other communities who are not dependent on, like particularly on fish, had to relocate other areas. And one of the prominent factor was lack of fresh water that cannot reach to the Indus Delta area. So I think one of the question that I have in mind, Haroon, so since you have done research and made documentary in that area, and you're quite familiar with the area, so can you say something on that? What the Sindh government has done anything for those people who were affected by this issue? So whether it is climate change or other
Exactly sure.
calamity.
If Sindh government necessarily has done a lot for the communities that have been displaced for this particular issue,
Yeah.
but an area where the Sindh government has done a great job and which probably is basically an example for the entire world actually is the mangrove replantation and the repopulation of the mangroves. That is an area where the Sindh government has been outstanding. And it's an example for the rest of the provincial governments to look into whatever natural treasures that we have and to preserve those treasures and to invest in the preservation of those treasures instead of like building in mindless, instead of investing in mindless real estate development, which often, by the way, and we can see it in the news every single day, this urban flooding. There are people like getting swept away in flash floods, the cars getting swept away, people's houses getting swept away. It's because we were building these housing societies right in the pathways of your monsoon streams, the streams that are like leading to the rivers. So we feel absolutely heartbroken by these tragedies. Every single life lost is simply irreplaceable. But these tragedies sadly start from the point when we actually sort of mindlessly, start building these concrete structures right where the water needs to flow whenever there's rain whenever there's a monsoon season. This is where our entire policy making and this is where you guys come in. This is where our development economists need to advise our policymakers in whatever capacity. Even if you're a student, I think you can make a lot of impact in your own way. You can start writing op-eds. You can start, mobilizing the community. I wish I was half as competent to do that, or even make documentary films, like whatever you know how to do, whatever you know how to do. Just start communicating with the stakeholders, with your peers, with people who are around you, with your friends, and try convincing the government in terms of like just respect the nature. You just respect the nature, and the nature is not going to.
So thank you, Haroon. So now with this, I open floor for questions. So anybody has any question?
Thank you for this wonderful conversation, and I'm very much grateful for actually becoming the voice of what the UN General Secretary referred to as the world most forgotten people. I mean, those displaced by the climate change. I'm Amjadullah. I'm doing research here in PIDE on climate-induced displacement. So my question is basically the extension of what Dr. Zulfiqar Ali just mentioned about the government role, about the policies. Basically, what I found in the policies, Pakistan policies, National Climate Change Policy 2021 has just one article that mentioned that two equally about the displacement. It doesn't mention very much clearly about what kind of policies should we adopt, what kind of policy framework should we have. So my question is, what policies should we adopt if there isn't any? And what I found that Pakistan doesn't have any clear policies regarding climate-induced displacement. What kind of policies should we adopt, and how will it impact these forgotten people of the world? Thank you.
Yes, I think that our federal government, and this is completely a multi-partisan effort. It's not confined to any one political party, because I do believe very strongly that every single Pakistani political party has the best interest of people at heart. I mean, obviously that comes with caveats, but whoever is in the government is largely more or less following a basically liberal trajectory in terms of everybody agrees that climate change is a problem. I don't think there's a single party in Pakistan that disagrees with that. The question arises when something really has to be put into action, because there's a lot of talk and not much action. So the Pakistani government itself has been like active at the COP conferences. We know that there has been the funding has been, the commitment to the funding has been pretty slow, from the leading government powers. So again, a country which is like so fiscally constrained like Pakistan can only do so much. I'm absolutely not an expert in the area of like what exact policy should be there for a climate scientist. I'm pretty sure Dr. Zulfiqar is going to invite climate scientists to basically speak on that. But at the same time, right now, we're in the phase of mitigation. We're in the phase of damage control, if you ask me. So all these communities, which are completely unheard of, millions of children in Pakistan out of school, not just across Pakistan. Indus Delta is just one region, which probably is one of the most, in terms of like human development, one of the most underdeveloped regions in the country. But like the children are out of school around the country. So it's a plethora of problems that we're talking about. And I think for people like Ayub Setu, for people like Ayaz, the very first thing that they're looking for is shelter. Their own homes. Right now, they do not own a home. And they're just surviving honestly, we're not even sure of how they're surviving every passing day. It's just communities, helping each other. It's the communities, the tribes that they find themselves in that area. It's just them supporting each other. as a matter of fact, Ayaz has gotten some, obviously, healthcare support in Karachi from the public healthcare system that the Sindh government has. But then again, that infrastructure only goes so far. So probably we need to look into more emergency funds. Bodies like NDMA can work with the federal government, and they can work with the provincial government to, formulate funding to, rehabilitate, these communities which are displaced, and to, come up with a plan that actually sort of settles them down somewhere where they can actually, in a dignified manner, pursue their livelihood without straining the urban infrastructure too much, which is already under a lot of strain. So, yeah.
So thank you, Haroon. As you know that detachment or migration from homeland is always painful. So thank you. So let's take another question.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Mohammad Imran Khan. I'm a PhD fellow at AERC. My work is basically on climate policy and fiscal policies interactions.
Beautiful.
But I will not go into deep into that matter because you, by yourself, said that you are not a climate scientist.
Yes.
My question is related to the filmmaking.
Exactly.
Because you are a filmmaker. Why don't you people make any film on economists like Mehboob Haq? We had a great economist in Pakistan, and like A.R. Kamal Saab, who had a great influence in policy making. And I think because the film industry is bounded with the filmmaking that earns money, they are just making films for the money.
Not
Real-
documentary. Not documentary.
Exactly, you will not be in that row,
Yeah.
but I want you to become on the front line in that aspect that you can make a movie on economist, on great scientists in Pakistan.
Okay. Thank
What is the reason behind that in your view?
I think it's a very unique question. I've never had that question before, and it's a pretty insightful observation. Why hasn't a filmmaker really made that story? The simple answer of that to that is that no filmmaker probably has been moved enough or felt inspired enough, probably because they're not aware enough necessarily of the contribution of the scientists, of the economists that you're talking about. The simple answer to your question is, if you believe, any of you, I mean, you don't necessarily have to be a documentary filmmaker to start that movement. If you really believe, of a story that really matters to you, you start developing that story, you start developing narrative around it. And if there's a documentary filmmaker in your circle, there's a lot of emerging filmmakers, even in at the Quaid-e-Azam University campus, at NUST, at other institutes around this city. So if in your circle, if there are filmmakers, you can never make a film alone. It's not a one man's job. It's you can never ever. But then again, you have to start from somewhere. Even if you're like if you want to raise funds for making a film, you have to develop it somewhere. No institution is just going to fund an idea that you think a film should be made on. So you make a compelling case of that. You speak to filmmakers around you. You partner with someone. You can even become a producer. You can even become a producer without money necessarily. So your knowledge actually makes you the producer. Your knowledge makes you the driving force behind that film. So even if a filmmaker doesn't necessarily share your passion about Dr. Mehboob Haq or Dr. Kamal, you can still partner with with the right people who understand the significance or the essence of their mission, their message, and we can see such a film tomorrow. Why not?
Okay.
We have to be good.
Thank you. If you have, yes, Dr. Uzma.
I just want to know that how much was your effort behind finding this idea that you will make a movie on it, and how you identified the case of this person, Mr. Ayaz.
Exactly. So it's again, it's a very magical. The entire experience is a very surreal experience. And I was just wondering when I was like thinking about this talk, that in a way it's recorded history, if you will. That very particular place, with those people over there at that particular time, it's something that is like past in that point in time, and we sort of recorded that history, and none of that is probably like that over there anymore. But how did we find them? One of the advising climate researchers, Sara Hayat, she's a renowned climate lawyer and activist. She was the driving force working with us in terms of like communicating and locating the kind of people who can really articulately put the experience of the pain of the climate migration, the pain of the impact of climate change over there. And there were people like Usman Lashari Baloch, who's a student at the Jamshoro University. He was one of the friends of Ayub Seto. Ayub Seto is also a member of our local political party, but a very humble and a very outspoken and a very brave political worker, a brave social worker, and a brave artist. We actually, I wish I could put like more songs of his in the film, but it's been an experience of a lifetime. Obviously, we were not aware. We did not expect to meet somebody like Ayub Seto, somebody so powerful like him, and who will actually present the story to you.
So thank
in the
you,
way that you've seen the film.
Thank you, Haroon. I just wanted to thank you
Thank you very much.
for becoming a voice of voiceless people.
We can only try.
So you know that any word that you speak for these marginalized community becomes meaningful. So any image that you shows is relevant for them. And at least by, speaking for them, their representation at some level is heard and seen. Otherwise, these marginalized communities are always underrepresented in policy making. I'm being anthropologist, have done extensive research on marginalized groups in Pakistan, from Sindh to Gilgit-Baltistan. So I know their stories. So stories are important. At least you brought stories, and these, my colleagues and students sitting here will pick the idea and maybe useful for their research. So I believe that words, we give basically meanings to the word. And you have, I must say, done a wonderful job by
Flattered.
recording their images and showing us, and and this makes difference actually. So with this, I conclude and close this session. I wanted to thank you again for sparing your time to share your stories.
Thanks to PIDE and every single one of you for taking your very precious time out and hearing me out on this. And I hope that you take away something useful from this talk. And
I thank you,
please
everyone.
watch the film.